Budget blowout has seen Victoria step back from hosting the Commonwealth Games in 2026. We're seeing other cities already scrambling to think about putting their own bid in to take on the sporting event. Western Sydney seems to be putting its hand up, and there was some speculation about Perth as well. Joining us now live in the studio is the Perth Lord Mayor, Basil Zemilas. Basil, good to see you as always.
Ash, hello.
You'd love to see the games here, but Roger Cook's saying no way.
Yeah, which is disappointing, to be honest, and I think a little short-sighted and not opening his mind and therefore Perth and Western Australia's minds and vision to the possibilities. I've been very fortunate through a broadcast career to go to many of these events, to know the very profound and positive impact that they have on host cities. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime set of circumstances. The host city for the 2026 Games now is in a unique position to be able to pick up the phone and say to the Commonwealth Games Federation, here are the venues we have, here's what we've got, this is what we're prepared to pay, do you want us or not? And I would bet my bottom dollar that the Commonwealth Games, in this very, very vulnerable position they find themselves in today because of Daniel Andrews' quite strange announcement really, I would bet my bottom dollar that they would snap up an offer like that from a city, Perth, and the state of Western Australia. So to hear the Premier say it's still no, which was the position of the previous Premier, I think is disappointing, and I don't think is fully exploring the possibility of these unique circumstances that exist.
You looked into this pretty closely, didn't you, as the Lord Mayor of Perth,
I
when
did.
Perth was considering this a while
back. And we had some genuine discussions and prices were put on it. Firstly, I've got to say, I'm not sure where the $6 or $7 billion, as Daniel Andrews has said, has come from. And I know there are people closely associated to the Commonwealth Games also asking that question themselves. How did it get to that? And Daniel Andrews said, did he not, at his announcement today, that some of those costings had come from government Treasury officials. Well, perhaps it's time to look for a new set of officials if they're getting it that wrong. How did they get it that wrong? Or is that figure inflated? Leaving that to one side, the idea of going to regional Victoria instead of the capital city, Melbourne, where all of that infrastructure exists already, was an unwise decision. But what we do know is the figure of around $1 billion was always put on a Perth bid. That's about what it would cost, perhaps a bit more. We can wind that even further back now because we can say we have Optus Stadium, we have RAC Arena, we have a host of community sporting facilities that can be easily adapted. Here's what we can do, Commonwealth Games. If there are sports on your list that we are not able to host readily without a big infrastructure spend, I'm sorry, take those off the list. And I know from previous experience that the Commonwealth Games are flexible with their program. Unlike the Olympic Games, when you have to do all of the sports that they have on their program, the Commonwealth Games have flexibility. So Perth is in a unique position. And Ash, the one thing that I really have to point out, the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast in 2018 delivered social housing and affordable housing for 7,000 Gold Coast residents the day after the Commonwealth Games finished. That's the real opportunity that exists in Western Australia. We know that we, like the rest of Australia, have a housing crisis. We could have 7,000 accommodated straight after the Commonwealth Games via the Commonwealth Games through the building of a purpose-built athletes village, which transitions into social and affordable housing. So we're saying no to that if we say no to the Commonwealth Games also.
Still, the Premier saying that economics just don't stack up. When it comes to the broader question of what this means for the future of the Commonwealth Games, as you said, you've been to countless, you know the athletes and how important these games are to them. People are saying this is the end.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that's why WA should be in such a strong position. Because right now, the Commonwealth Games, which has endured for over 75 years, does not have a host venue for the next Commonwealth Games. It could be all over. Now, Perth should seize on that opportunity and say, OK, we're not spending $6 billion, we're not spending $5 billion, we will spend $1 billion because we know that money will come back into our own economy and our own state, and we will step up and host it, but we're hosting on our terms. And to not even have that conversation, to not even consider picking up the phone to have that discussion, I think is a case of the government not doing their job. The social dividend that is delivered from these games is profound. I've been lucky to see it. People say the Commonwealth Games aren't relevant anymore. Gold Coast, by attendance and television ratings, broke both records. That's what happens when the event comes to your city. People walk tall, They show it off with civic pride. It has a profound positive effect on the people of the host city, and it delivers for the future. And we're saying no to all of that if we're not prepared to even pick up the phone and speak to the Commonwealth Games and say, here's the terms we'll host it on. We'll save you, but you've got to do it on our terms.
Could this be a shared countrywide event? Because that's something the WA Premier hasn't ruled out. He said,
I'm not sure that works. I mean, he said a shared city, but where's the next city? Adelaide? How does that work? Do we have half of the team in Adelaide, half of the team in Perth? I think the great benefit of Olympics and Commonwealth Games is that they are in one city. That's the opportunity that exists. We last held the Commonwealth Games, it was the Empire Games in 1962. My parents tell me of the profound impact it had on their community then. That's the chance that we've got. We should open our minds and our eyes to the possibilities, and we can dial the price down. That's the unique set of circumstances that exist. It's a host's market. And for the Premier just to say, no, we're not interested, to me appears that no further work has gone into it. None of these possibilities have been considered, and that's a shame. This is a lost opportunity if we don't pursue it.
You can see a lot of voters would say, look, I would rather that money go into our healthcare system and housing and infrastructure in my own state without the sporting spend. But the people who are really going to be shattered today are the athletes.
Correct.
I mean, you must be feeling for those people.
So for the athletes that were looking forward to competing at a home games, and we know that they, hopefully some of them have a home Olympic Games in Brisbane 2032 still to look forward to. But what about the profound impact on the young generation of athletes coming through? Kids that would be in primary school when the games came to their town. We know history is littered with those events going to various cities and people being young athletes and spectators in those cities, seeing them, feeling it and saying, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. That's an opportunity that we're missing. But also, again, if nothing else for Perth and Western Australia, consider the profound injection of social and affordable housing that could come out of a Commonwealth Games in 2026. And if for no other reason, to fast-track dwellings for 7,000 West Australians, why wouldn't you do that? Knowing that you also get all of the benefits of the great festival of sport on top of it. And again, it's a missed opportunity if we don't open our eyes and at least explore the unique set of circumstances that exist right now. It will be a great shame and an opportunity I don't think Perth will ever get again. If we don't host now, we won't host an Olympic Games. If we don't host the Commonwealth Games now, we'll never get an event of this magnitude in Perth, Western Australia.
Well, there's the pitch. Basil Zemilas. We'll see if Roger Cook is for turning on that one. He sounds pretty firm on it, but maybe some other premiers will be putting their hands up instead. Really appreciate you coming in and taking us through your views. Appreciate that.